Oh yeah, man. I made tons of mistakes. That's what starting a company is all about. You just got to rack them up. This is way in the weeds, but during the Kickstarter campaign that we ran, I paid $500 to a company to do public relations for us. Total waste.
Really?
Again, that's like way in the weeds, way down
No,
the road.
that's good. I like. Who'd you go with? So we know not to go with them.
No. I mean, I don't pay for PR. Don't
Okay.
pay for PR. Like, don't. And here's actually the lesson that I would give to anyone. Like, don't substitute real face-to-face interaction, even if it's like over Skype, for like, don't think that you can pay for that, right? Don't think that, oh, I can hire someone and they'll take care of it. Like, no, like it's on you.
I'd say I try to do everything by myself. I feel guilty asking people for help.
The biggest mistake I made in starting you guys was starting it with the wrong people. I had a co-founder with the original idea. And I think by far getting the right team members, the right people around the table is by far the biggest challenge.
One of the biggest things that I learned when I was first starting a business, I spent a lot of time planning. And I can tell you, if you're an entrepreneur, a lot of times you have big ideas and you want to work through, all the different pieces of the puzzle, so to speak, when you're putting a business together. And what I've learned over the years is the best thing to do is just get out there and execute. So I like to say that the number one focus for an entrepreneur should be imperfect action rather than analysis paralysis.
I like that. It's kind of like the perfect is the enemy of good.
Right.
This is my first entrepreneurial endeavor, right? And so I'm sure I made more than one mistake. I can tell you what we've done right is pick an awesome team. I think what we did wrong is I'm not sure that we focused early enough on getting to what's called a minimum viable product, right?
Sure.
Right, in entrepreneurship, right? You got to find something and create it so that you can show it to investors, and as quickly as possible get past that stage where it's just you and a PowerPoint deck.
A mistake I've made is perhaps reaching too high sometimes in trying to acquire some donors and donations, especially in the corporate realm. Just trying to go straight to the money, if you will, instead of fostering those relationships a little bit more, which is found to be important.
Oh, okay. Don't take things personally. That's probably the biggest thing I've learned,
Accept a lot of news.
Don't take things, and transitioning out of the military, that was probably the biggest thing I learned early on is people are not going to return your phone calls, right? And it's nothing on you, man. People are not going to return your emails.
When I was on active duty, I always had this thought in my mind that I was going to get an MBA. And I went and I got an MBA. And in retrospect, I don't know how I feel about the time and the energy that I put into my MBA. And I think like a huge problem with that process was that I didn't really have any counterparts in like the future that I wanted to create for myself. Like real people who I could talk to about my ideas.
Peers or mentors?
Either. And I think that spending the time to really develop relationships with people who would be like my future peers and mentors would have been really useful.
Start small. Test out your product. Test out what it is and make a profit from it from the get-go.
Got it.
A lot of times with bigger organizations or MBA students, they'll tell you, oh yeah, most businesses take 3 to 5 years to turn a profit. That's BS. Absolutely. You can turn a profit year one. Heck, you can turn a profit month one, depending on your industry and if you do it right.
As an entrepreneur where you're starting your business, you have to be incredibly scrappy, and that's in every component. I would warn you to get some people around you that have your personal best interest at heart, not necessarily the business, but your personal best interest. I went so long down that path of trying to keep that company alive when it probably shouldn't have been kept alive, that I got myself in, serious personal financial difficulty. And if I'd had a sounding board of advisors, they would have said, hey, Kelly, give this one up, even though you don't want to hear that as an entrepreneur. And it would have been the right thing to hear. And then I could have gotten those people whose money that I lost, and it hurts to say that, whose money I lost, into a next deal that would be much more fruitful or successful.
Yeah, I think trying to do too much. I think sometimes as coming with a military background, you feel like you can do everything, or you should be doing everything to execute it, but you really have to leverage the experience of others to bring them right next to you on your team to be able to build a plan and execute it properly.
leveraging the experiences and expertise of others is probably the most important thing that I can tell anyone to do.
But what's something that you can share with the listener to prevent us from potentially making the same mistake?
You know, I watched Rob do this thing, and I watched him laugh when you asked him about mistakes, because you always make them. So here's the best advice I think I can give is build a solid network, right? When I look at how we manage expenses, it's because we were very naive, and it's because we were dealing with people we didn't know, and it wasn't referral, and nobody's reputation was on the line. Frankly, we got taken advantage of.
I like that.
Now, everybody that I do business with comes from a network of somebody that I at least trust.
When you get out, you got to put almost everything out there. And it might be embarrassing and it might suck at first, but that's the only way you're going to learn. And that's something that I think most people aren't familiar with doing, is taking these small risks because you're afraid. But as I've gotten out, I've learned to just put it out there, put the idea out there, put the website or product. You need feedback. You're not going to get better unless you get feedback.
If I had to go back knowing what I know now, one of the things that I wasted probably the first 4 or 5 months on is creating the business plan, a perfect pitch deck, things like that. When in reality, what I should have done is just go ahead and build a product, and get that product market fit as soon as possible, especially when it comes to consumer products, because no one cares how great your deck looks or how concise your business plan is. They want to see that product market fit. They want to see traction. And, that's one of the things that I wish I would have known from the get-go.
I'd say my biggest mistake was trying to tackle too much at one time. I had this great idea and this great vision for a whole slew of dessert items and products and things that I could create and sell online. And I spread myself too thin. I didn't think about all of the labeling, the packaging, the different shipping costs and needs for different products and different sizes. And, I just bit off more than I could chew. Hindsight, I think focusing on one product and trying to launch that one thing is probably a better place to start.
The biggest learning opportunity that I had early on was to not hire out someone to be assistant, an admin type of role, because we can, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we can get really tied up in the admin and the technical aspects of what we do, and that really pulls you away from the more leveraged activity. So that was the first thing anyone should do if they're considering becoming an entrepreneur. There's a lot of just paperwork and admin involved.
Sure.
Get an assistant. Like, even if they're virtual, you get an assistant to help you out.
I think one of the mistakes that grossly underestimating the amount of time or money that it takes to build a product out. A lot of the front-end research that you can do with low-tech means, so instead of hiring a developer to build your website out or to build your product out or your app that you're thinking about out, it makes a lot more sense to try to prove out that your concept is solid in very low-tech ways. So if you're doing it with an Excel spreadsheet, if you're doing it with a Google Doc, do it with very low-tech means just to see if it's real.
I made too many assumptions without listening to consumers. I mean, by now, everyone's read Eric Ries's book, The Lean Startup. If you haven't read it, please do. It has the build, measure, learn philosophy of the Lean Startup. And rather than making assumptions about what your customers want, it's learning to take customer feedback and make business decisions based on the facts of your consumers.
I made so many. It's hard to pick one. I have made so many mistakes with Ruckpack, and it's about really how you react to those mistakes.